Great. I went 15 minutes on the just one section of this. That's too long. But anyway, those three arguments for why even defense for a nation, for a country, for a people doesn't require, or for groups of peoples, doesn't require a government. Uh, because people will develop cultures on the business level, they'll develop culture on the insurance level, on the defense agency level, the business level, on the personal defense level, and on the uh, passive resistance level. All three of those things working symbiotically, as I explained in the previous 15-minute video, would make a country invincible. But there was one point I forgot, and that is that government is extremely inefficient, and it wouldn't cost much to defend a country. The first thing is diplomacy. Diplomacy is much cheaper than fighting and being invaded and so on. And the second thing is threat. And threat can be very inexpensive, even if it's very effective, even if it's based on real power. And the third thing is efficiency in executing self-defense. In the free market, it's far more efficient. I mean, a lot of people believe in government, and they believe in left-wing propaganda that that government is efficient. I know people like that, and it's kind of odd that anyone would believe in that. But if you're in business, you're trying to make a profit, and you don't have the government sucking up your losses for you and making the taxpayers pay for it, and then you get the profits like the banks just did, then and not only that, but in business, I mean, in business, so you're gonna cut your costs if you're in private competitive business, right? If you're a competing industry, self-defense, you're gonna cut your costs, and of course, some people are afraid that one of these self-defense agencies would take over, but that's not a there's not much incentive for that to happen. And there's not much market function for that to happen, because as soon as somebody starts becoming aggressive or planning for it, you know about it. It's only the government that keeps secrets pretty well, even though they don't, right? But they keep them a lot better than any private organization in a free market, because as soon as you see somebody who's going around, like in the movies, like these dastardly evil villains in the movies, say like a James Bond movie or something, you're going to be able to tell, and the market is going to respond, and the market responds with competence on the individual level, and incentives. There's incentives to not be hurt, to not have your life destroyed, and I mean, that's why people are aware and have developed a culture of self-defense. And they will do that if in the absence of a monopoly. Just like in the field of food or in the field of medicine, before the government got involved 100 years ago, there was relative security in that area. Technology, of course, has improved. Knowledge has improved. But in some cases, it probably got worse because nobody uses home remedies anymore, and they maybe have less side effects, and they may even be more effective. We don't really know, do we? Because who would document that? The government? Huh? So anyway, so getting back to defense, it's goddamned inefficient. Look at how the Battle of Saratoga, not Saratoga, in New York. I guess it was Saratoga, in mid-state New York, where a huge British Army had been coming down, and basically the American Army captured it. And they captured it, and George Washington didn't have anything to do with it. The big boys didn't have anything to do with it. They did have an army with a general, but the thing was worn down by a company of riflemen because the Americans had superior weaponry with their long rifles in terms of their rifles. And they picked off the Indian guides first because they were out in the wilderness and they needed Indian guides. And the Indian guides, the balance of the Indian guides got out of there after 2 or 3 of them got dropped from several hundred yards away. And somebody up in a tree dropping these guys. And then they dropped the officers. And then the British press and the conservative press said how awful, how ungentlemanly to drop the officers. In other words, it's okay to kill lower class people, right? That's what they're saying. And that's basically the whole point of government, is to sacrifice a lot, everybody, for a few elitists. And so, I mean, look at Afghanistan, look at Vietnam, look at how they took on the biggest countries in the world. Look at the current situation in Afghanistan and Iraq. Iraq was a failure. You can't win a country like that. You can destroy it, like we've done. We destroyed Iraq to a large degree. We just made it miserable for millions of people over there and killed perhaps 1.5 million in 20 years, 25 years. I mean, you know, it's barbaric. It's evil, and we all believe that somehow it's normal and necessary because we don't understand economics. We don't understand the nature of the individual. So I'm going to make this a short video, an apology for making the last one 15 minutes. So that's the thing, and that whole argument about Peter Schiff about the free rider problem, I don't buy it. I think culture creates a compliance of the energies of the whole society go into being invincible. The first level of which is to be diplomatic, not to make enemies, and that is much more likely in a libertarian society, one without a government, because government has no incentive to avoid war, like the individual does who owns assets and has nobody to take up his costs, you know. And even big companies, you know, they have no incentive to go to war unless the government's in bed with them. Okay, so how do I shut this thing down?